We're Rick and John, and this is our first trip to Alaska. We saw incredible views of Alaska's mountains, terrains, lots of wildlife, and wilderness. We traveled by plane, train, boat, and bus over 8 days. We were fortunate to have smaller crowds throughout our trip, just following the COVID-19 pandemic. So here we go! As we approached Anchorage, we saw beautiful mountains, which were a preview of what was ahead. Awesome views surrounded us as we waited for our Uber ride after arriving at the airport. We hit the streets right away to see the sights of Anchorage. We get out early in the morning just to get ahead of any potential crowds. This time of year, there are over 20 hours of daylight. We were surprised at the number of fur dealers in Anchorage. Surprisingly, a big market in Anchorage. Found a great place for breakfast. Our first day trip started with a scenic ride from Anchorage on our way to Portage Glacier. Our first stop was a wildlife preserve, a place where they rescue and take in many types of wildlife, ones that would otherwise not make it on their own. Our second destination was a boat tour of Portage Glacier. We got to see a mother bear with her 3 cubs walking down the mountainside. As you can see, our boat tour was not very crowded, giving us plenty of room to take pictures and video.
Now normally right here we feel the effects of the catabolic wind. The glacier cools the air down over it. That cold air comes off the face of the glacier. Right now we've got the weather coming in.
The highlight of the tour, the glacier.
Look back in those crevasses, you'll see it's even bluer back in there.
cold up here. It's pretty. It's just unbelievably beautiful. It's 4 miles long, a half mile wide.
It's all aboard the Alaska Railroad, the best way to see the real Alaska. Our seats were on the Gold Dome level, where the views were the best, well worth the extra cost. Our car had its own bar, and drinks were free. We had an outdoor observation deck leading from the car as well. The dining car was downstairs, and the food was spectacular. We made it to Denali in only 8.5 hours. It was an enjoyable, scenic, and comfortable ride. Denali Cabins was a great place to stay. We were just 10 minutes from Danali National Park, and it had fantastic views all around. Our trip into Danali National Park was a 92-mile ride into the park and back. Wildlife was all over, the scenery spectacular. Danali National Park is home to Mount Denali, the highest mountain peak in all of North America.
At this point, we're probably a good 70, 80 miles away from the mountain.
We were told only 30% of visitors to the park actually got to see the peak due to cloud cover. Fortunately for us, we got to see the peak that day and take lots of pictures. Such an amazing spectacle. We stopped for some lunch and some sightseeing at the 92-mile mark at the Denali Lodge. And we had time for a relaxing beverage before heading back. Back on the Alaska Railroad to Fairbanks, then to Juneau. The scenery and views on our train trip to Fairbanks was even more spectacular than our first day. Juneau, the capital of Alaska, is only accessible by plane or by boat. Cruise ships were still not coming into Juneau due to the COVID-19 pandemic. These ships typically bring in thousands of tourists daily to the city. We took this opportunity to have lunch at the world-renowned Tracy's King Crab Shack. John learned how to open bear-proof trash cans, thanks to a local. Dinner was at the Red Dog Saloon, another popular tourist attraction here in Juneau. Bald eagles and ravens are plentiful in Juneau, as you can see here. Guess what? Ravens like ice cream too. The tram ride gave us a great view of downtown Juneau and Douglas Island. Time for some relaxing refreshment before our trip to Mendenhall Glacier in Nugget Falls, just 12 miles from downtown Juneau. The almost 1 mile long walk to the glacier and falls was very much worth it. time to leave, but determined to come back again to see the things we didn't get to see this first time. The time went by so fast. Back to Atlanta.